The wine world, they're very pretentious and they think that it's the most complex drink in the world. It's not, right? Beer is thousands of times more complex.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Breaking Bread, the Birmingham-based food podcast presented by food obsessed mates Liam and Carl. I am Liam.
Carl, hello.
How's it going, everyone? How are you, mate?
Buzzing, how are you, man?
Yeah, glad to still be out of lockdown.
Yeah,
you kind of get this
for now.
feeling. Yeah, you
for
get
now.
this feeling. Is it going to come back? So you got to try and eat as much as you can.
I know, you can dig out there, man. So, first week I went out four times.
Yeah, you smashed it, mate.
No resting around.
To be honest, I'm just glad I got to go to Zumhof with you, because that burger, Chris.
Oh, yeah, Chris, meats bun.
Meats bun, mate. That black and blue.
Yeah, you
black
had the
pudding,
black and
blue
yeah.
cheese, the jam, chili jam. Oh, mate.
I had the little hottie, chilies in and bacon and cheese. Oh, mate. I don't know why I wasn't going to swear then. We're perfectly allowed to swear on this podcast, but either way, it was phenomenal.
It's the burger. That's, for me, the taste of the actual beef burger itself was so good. It's it went perfectly with what I had because it was a little bit funky.
Yeah,
and I like that. You know what I mean? You know, you get it too fresh and it's like, by funky, I don't mean gone off. I mean, like, you know, like dry aged. Like.
Well, mate, it's up there. It's up there with the rest of the burger. We're so lucky. If you love burgers, Birmingham's the place to live.
We're flying at me. We need to try Stacks, man. That's next on my list.
I ain't tried Stacks. You know, I ain't had flying cows either.
Flying cow? Oh, flying cow's good, man.
I think that's the only one I haven't had that I'm really desperate to try now.
Flying cow's good, damn.
Yeah, I've had everyone else. And meats buns easily up there.
Where else? You went to Grand. Did you? You didn't eat there?
No, I went to Grand and had a tour around that. That's the joke, the relationship for that. And it's so beautiful. I mean, it's like painfully beautiful. Yeah, it's properly stunning. I only had a look around. I didn't even get to eat or try any of the food, although we should be doing a podcast soon with the main chef there. That'd be good. But it's so pretty. It's not like me to talk about buildings like this either, but it's the only words you could use. It's called the Grand, and it is grand.
That ballroom looks wicked. The cocktail room looks class.
Yeah, I've got to get there. I've seen everyone else's pictures of cocktails, and I love a good cocktail, so I've got to get there for that.
You went to 8's as well?
Yeah, I went to 8's. My friend Andrew Sheridan had me there for dinner.
Unbelievable.
He's changed up the menu quite a lot and scaled it back a bit more, so it's a bit more manageable. We eat big portions and used to get a lot of food on the first round, and he's scaled it back so it's more manageable now. Certainly don't leave hungry, it's still a lot of food. I mean, there's still 8 plus snacks and stuff like that. The drinks pairing, and it's phenomenal.
That cookbook coming out as well, that looks good.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Can't wait to see that.
Definitely getting that.
You'll have to order that for me.
Yeah. I'll be getting that. That looks really good. Where else is it? Sushi Passion.
Sushi Passion, yeah. Always forgotten about it, to be honest. Everyone always says Gaijin, but...
Gaijin's where I still haven't eaten there and I really want to.
Yeah.
But I was right by it. It was after I left the Grand,
course,
and I was right by it, so I just thought... There was a couple of things I've craved real bad through lockdown. One was really good sushi.
It's not something you can really make yourself at home.
No, and some alright places, but not really. By where we live, Fukuoka's probably the only place, a proper sushi place, and it's good, but it's not great.
Yeah.
So I wanted great sushi, I wanted fine dining, I wanted a good burger, so I've ticked 3 off the list.
Yeah.
I've just got to go for a really good curry now, and then I've got to go to Bonehead, and I think I've ticked everything off the list. Oh, and Verbena. Verbena's right at the top of my list as well.
Verbena looks so good. Verbena's this new restaurant in Stursley. You might have seen it. It's been on social quite a lot this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul Fulford went there, done a cracking review.
I did it.
Mate, it looks
I seen he went there. I never read the review.
So good. Looks so good. She is smashing it, man.
Yeah, it's right on the top of my list of places to go.
Yeah, that's up on mine. Hopefully this week, I'm off this week. Been a bit mental with moving house this last 2 weeks. Yeah, so I'm just going to try and work my way around as many. I'm planning on having a full day in Birmingham just into.
Make sure Bonehead's on your list.
Yeah, Bonehead is on my list. Meat Shack. I want to go back to Meat Shack. There's just loads. Like I want to go Bull's Head for dinner.
Oh yeah, I've got that booked in. Bull's Head in Barston. I've got that booked in for Monday. Bank holiday. Cannot wait.
Yeah. So.
See our friend Ben. And that was another one on the list, Country Pub. So as soon as I've been for a curry, been to Bonehead, and been to Verbena, if you want to go in another lockdown, that's fine by me. I've been everywhere I want to be. As long as I can get them in before.
Selfish fucker.
I know. Balls to it. Well, the government have done it again. They've let another variant in.
Yeah. Today we're talking about beer.
Yeah, this was a fantastic podcast.
That's so good. Recorded it a week ago, actually, yeah. Just down at his unit, down in Jewellery Quarter, Burning Soul, Chris.
Yep, one of my favourite breweries. Does my favourite beer in the whole world.
Yeah.
I've talked to him about it all. And, mate, I don't know about you, but I learned so much that I didn't know about beer. And I've never heard anyone talk so passionately about how you make beer as well.
Well, that's what it said. Burning Soul literally means that he has a burning passion, burning soul for beer, and it shows, man. He's so knowledgeable. But he had a real good way of like being quite technical but understandable as well. It was crystal clear. I understood it as someone who, even as someone who doesn't drink, I was so fascinated by it. Like, I thought it was class.
We got a taste of some of the, well, I got a taste.
Yeah, a nice taste. Yeah,
taste of all the beers.
Yeah, that was brilliant. And as I was editing it and listening back to it, it comes across really nicely. At time, like we get through the story, and then every so often there's a little, and then you just talk about that beer, and it's really nice the way it goes through. It's a great story. Like it's like we planned it or something.
I had a proper session on Burning Soul yesterday. It was that nice day.
Yeah, that photo in the garden here looked cracking as well. Looked brilliant.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a proper post for that.
But as we said, we did record it in his unit, so it is a little echoey. Chris really hated holding the microphone anywhere near his mouth. So he does sound like sometimes he's here, sometimes he's the other side of the unit. But I've done my best. I think his story still comes through and his knowledge still shines through. So it's definitely worth kind of bearing with if you can stick with the audio.
Yeah.
But he was that excited when someone's passionate, their hands are going mad, and that's what it was like when he loved it.
Yeah.
So I'm just really excited to share this with everyone, and hope you all enjoy it as much as we enjoyed recording it and Carl enjoyed the
Drinking
beer.
it.
Chris from Burning Soul Brewery, how are you?
I'm doing alright. How are you?
Yeah, good man, good. Thanks for inviting us down to the tap room today, down at the brewery in Jewellery Quarter. Good to be here, mate.
Oh, cheers. It's nice having you. So straight off, just gonna apologise for my croaky voice. Few drinks last night. It was good fun. First Saturday open. So
Yeah, it went well.
It went very well. Most importantly, like it was a room full of very good people. Everybody was very happy, and we all had an excellent time. There was a chap, Nick Bubba, his name is. He's a good mate of mine, but it was his birthday, so he came and celebrated, and it was very good. We actually opened up this week for the first time. We opened up on a Thursday, just because we launched some cans, so we knew we'd have like people like ordering for deliveries and then come to collect beer as well. And I thought, if we open up the tap room for indoor seating, and I've got people collecting, it's going to be an absolute shit show. So I was like, okay, if we open up on Thursday and try and get some of those collections out of the way pretty early. So I got all the deliveries I could do on Thursday and got the collections done, so we could. So on Saturday I could have a drink in the evening.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, the music was a bit loud last night as well. Yeah. I'll probably put some people off with the rock music as well, but that's fine. I had the time of my life, so
Yeah, as long as you enjoyed it.
yeah. That's generally not the way. That's not really a good business model.
Nah, if you're enjoying it, man, other people enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so.
How does it work for tap room? What are the hours? Are you allowed to stay open when you want? Because it seems tap rooms, all the ones in Birmingham, they have different hours to, say, a bar or a pub.
Yeah. The hours are different. We actually inherited our rules. So this unit prior to us moving in a long time ago was Two Towers Brewery.
Oh yeah.
So this room was already licensed. So it wasn't a case of applying for a new license. It was a case of moving the license over to our names. So yeah. So a lot of the rules on this room we inherited from the old brewery. Now, one of the interesting rules we inherited actually was so we're not allowed any under 18s on site, which is pretty normal for a bar.
Yeah.
But there's an exception. It says, unless part of an educational school tour. I'm like, what? What?
You're taking them on kids around brewery tours.
Yeah, and then you take the kids to the brewery, and I'll teach them how to make homebrew beer.
That's a school I would have wanted to go to.
I know, man.
That's irresponsible. Had the knowledge I have now, if I could have done this at 15, I probably wouldn't have lived as long as I have. So yeah, so no, but yeah, we inherited the rules. So the hours we use at the moment, it's Fridays and Saturdays only. So obviously most of the week is an absolute mess because it's a brewery and all the stuff comes forward, and so we're busy making the beer. So we're not trying to be a full-on bar, but Friday I think it's going to be about 4 till 9:30, and then Saturday might be 1 till 9:30. I mean, prior Corona, don't want to talk about Corona for too long, but prior to Corona, we were actually closing at 8 o'clock, just because, quite selfishly, I was like, I want to have a drink. I don't want to work all Saturday. No, and plus we weren't trying to compete with other bars, but the 9:30 finishes have been pretty reasonable, pretty good. I mean, I think I was concerned because sometimes we brew quite strong. I think I might have been like overly worried about people like being a bit too leery, but that's certainly not the case. So it depends on your customers. Here we got excellent customers who are very responsible. So there's never anything leery. There's never anything. What's the word I'm looking for? There's no Broad Street behaviour at Burners. So there's nothing like that around here.
What kind of crowd do you attract? Is it a younger crowd or?
Oh, it's a huge mix. Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't say it's a younger crowd.
I'm just asking because a lot of the time craft ales, not so much anymore. Years ago, it used to be like middle-aged hairy blokes. You know what I mean? That was the old stereotype, wasn't it?
And then
but Burning Soul was, I think, one of the first that came along to kind of with the cool branding and all like the can design, everything just kind of broke that down a little bit and attracted
that's very complimentary. That's very complimentary on our branding. Yeah, I'd definitely say it's a mix. We get some we get families turn up like in multiple generations, but I wouldn't say it's like we're student focused or anything like that. I couldn't really give you the average age. I reckon the average age is probably about 35, maybe. I don't know. I try not to think about it. We get a good gender split as well. It's not, we get mixed groups quite a lot. So we don't generally just get groups of men. It's I don't know. I tend not to think about it. I'm just generally good people like good beer. So everyone's welcome.
But was it like, is it something you set out like as part of the plan? Was it?
No. There's nothing that smart going on with our marketing. Like, we're gonna do our branding and aim towards 20 to 24. No, nothing like that. No, the idea is just make a beer. So the branding and the marketing, all that other stuff has always taken a bit of a back seat. So the beer speaks for itself, and it's a bit, I don't want to call it like a disease, but the best marketing you can have is a good referral. If your beer's good enough to be spoken about, that's all the marketing I think you need. So it's like some people have it and then they tell somebody else and they tell somebody else, and someone turns up for a tour and then they come back years later, and it just kind of passes on like that. So yeah, it's
part of it. Like something truly fucking awesome rises to the top anyway. Like despite any marketing budget, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the marketing. Just become undeniable.
You don't need rises to the
that's
top.
True,
cream. No, well, thank you. Well, that's If you're undeniable, it doesn't matter about your marketing. It doesn't matter about your marketing. That being said, I think the cans do look nice.
Yeah, who does all your marketing stuff? It's all you yourself. Because the cans are.
Oh well, no. Okay, so
they're
don't
cool
get me
as
wrong.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, thank you. Don't get me wrong. So when it comes to actual physical, oh no, how inappropriate! Look, that's my mum as well.
Oh no, you've got to turn that. You can't turn that one down.
Better not turn that one down.
Hey, you're right, mum. Bye. All right. She ruined the flow, didn't she? God. what
were you saying?
Oh yeah, the can. So I don't actually do the the physical drawings and the designs. There was one can I did do, which I'm very proud of. I'll get to that in a second. But what I usually do is I scour the web, I buy artworks, and then I kind of edit them to make it into the the black and white monochrome burning cell style. And then it's kind of what I do is I use a PC program to build the artwork, layer it on. So I think.
Sorry, Chris, you have to talk into the mic.
Oh, sorry.
It happens all the time. People
Okay,
get
sorry.
Mate, I'm the worst for it. Don't worry about it.
So I just kind of I put it together. I change all the colors and I edit them and I do that, and then I pay artists for it. So some of our stuff is pretty cool. We've got cans we haven't got here. I mean, I could get some out the back, but we've already got a few cans to go through, and it's. I don't know what time you're releasing the podcast, but it is 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, so I don't want to go too heavy. Well, so basically, I'm a big nerd, and it's sometimes I'm a nerd about beer. I'm a nerd about quite a few things, and sometimes it comes through in the beer. And we've got a beer called World King Fist IPA.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, mate. Do you know what? It's really hard because I get a lot of people come here and are like, hey, "Have you got the fist one, the one with the fist?" And they don't realise that World King Fist is literally a translation from an old Dragon Ball Z move. And I don't know if you guys know Dragon Ball Z. Liam laughed. He knows Dragon Ball Z. So yeah, they asked for World King Fist. Anyway, we have you know what a Gundam is? A Japanese mech robot. You know,
I know the got a big robot on it.
At one point, like I think in the early 90s, Japan was obsessed with giant robots, and that's kind of inspired like Power Rangers for the West. Anyway, that can has Gundam artwork on it. There's an old Chinese, I don't want to say proverb, but there's a story of the Monkey King, and the character from Dragon Ball Z was a rip-off of the Monkey King. So on the artwork for that can, I've got a Monkey King Gundam that I had someone draw for me, and I'm like, that's badass, dude. I love it. Yeah. I love it. And then the other one we have Heaven Hallis, which is like a Gundam hand, like reaching out, trying to touch a human. You know, the creation of Adam. You know that artwork. Yeah. It's a bit of a piss take on that. So yeah, we go a bit funny with the artworks, and we have a good time.
You might as well have a good play with them as well, man.
Yeah, why not?
Enjoy it.
One of my favorite artworks we did. So last year during the lockdowns, we released a beer called 0121 Brew One, which is it's very very Birmingham focused. It's wicked. But one of my favorite bits about the beer, other than the beer itself, is I actually did that artwork. So if you look at that artwork, it looks like it's like. Do you know sometimes some artists they can pull off? Oh, it looks crap, but it's crap on purpose. It looks like it's crap on purpose, but it's just the best I could do. It took me absolutely hours.
So I was like, he's been ironic with this can. He's like, no, that is my best effort.
Yeah. My missus, she cracked a joke, and I was like, oh, I wish I'd done that. She says, what you should have done is put by Chris, age 33, on the side of it. I was like, that would have been
good as well, man.
That would have been great, but I already sent it off to the printers. But, so, you know, bit of a mix. So, for the most part, I usually acquire the artworks from elsewhere, and all I do is I want to say the graphical design, the putting it together on the PC. So, yeah.
So, tell us a bit about yourself, Chris. I'm guessing you haven't been to art school or...
Haven't been to where?
Art school.
No. No. But funnily enough, the only reason I can do all this sort of editing is when I was younger, I used to use computer programs to edit out my zits. Yeah, and I'm like, so obviously Photoshop is number one. I haven't learned Photoshop. I just use the old programs I used to use. Yeah, I'm like, oh no, I'm not learning something new. I just use the old programs. Yeah. So I do it in the old programs, and then I export it to Photoshop, save it, and then I send it to the printers. Yeah. So I
You grew up around Birmingham?
Yeah, I grew up around Birmingham. I grew up originally in Balsall Heath, and then moved to Moseley. I studied. I went to school in Moseley, then Acotts Green. And then eventually I went on to UCE, which became BCU while I was there. Yeah. And that rebranding exercise that they did done them wonders. Honestly, like it completely changed everything. I was chuffed. I went to a Worth University and graduated from a better university. So.
What did you study?
I studied Business Information Technology with Multimedia, which sounds like it's very relevant to what I do.
That sounds very useful.
It's not useful at all, dude. It wasn't a waste of time and money, but it was certainly.
What did you want to do? Like, was there a reason you done that course in particular?
No, no, there wasn't really a reason for it. I think I
It's
just
good
kind
to be honest. A lot of people are like, yeah, I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was 12.
Yeah.
And
Don't get me wrong. That is.
most people I know didn't. Most people I know are 30 and still don't know what
Yeah,
they
I don't know
want to
what
do.
I'm doing a job
I'm
now.
35. I don't get a clue.
I mean, I thought you'd say podcaster, but okay. All right.
Nah, it doesn't pay enough.
So you had nothing
Oh,
in mind.
you think this pays? No. No. I think because originally I did apply for the Aston University business course, but that's one of the best business courses in the country, and I wanted A, B, B, and I got a B, B, C. I'm like, is that good enough? They were like, no, it's not. And then I wanted to stay local, so then I went to it was UCE under clearing, but part of that course, it was like a 4-year course, and on the third year you did a placement. So I did a placement in the NHS as in the IT department. So I met a few people there, and that was kind of like that put me on a career path already. So when I graduated, I applied for the NHS. I was like, I've already got a year experience in like servicing like the GP population and all this, and I've worked because luckily in my experience, they were like every 3 months you change department, which is really good. So, and by the end of it, I had a job in West Brom as a business analyst. So it was spreadsheets. So I was a big spreadsheet guy. So I did that for about 7 years, and I was really good at it. No one's handsomely paid in the NHS. Sorry, the table is making a noise. And
It's a tap room.
I can see it's annoying you, Liam. Yeah. So I was just doing spreadsheets, dashboards, that sort of stuff.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. It certainly wasn't a bad job at all. No, it was good people, and you kind of felt like you were making a difference. So, so my job was trying to like evidence the work that the community services were doing. So obviously, the NHS was trying to like I don't want to say move more commercial, but it's separated to kind of provider and people who put out for tender. So we were trying to evidence the work. So a lot of my job was like, hey, can you record that on the PC, please? I know you're doing the work. But from a business point of view, we need to be able to stand in front of somebody and go, this is the work we do. This is our time, how long it takes for us to deliver X care. So that was my job, and it was pretty good. And I'd like to think I was very good at it. But I started brewing beer. I mean, I've been drinking beer, and this is I don't know if I should even share this, but I've been drinking beer for a long time, longer than legally allowed. But I used to drink almost exclusively Carling, right?
Oh, yeah, man, I've been in that boat. Don't worry about it.
Almost exclusively. And if it wasn't Carling, I'd be like, ugh, I'd look down on like Foster's drinkers, like it was so different. So but the funny thing is, I never actually liked Carling, but I assumed it was an acquired taste. And
Does anyone really like truthfully like? I bet they do.
Do you know what? I've had. I won't say unfortunately, I've had people come to the tap room and tell me that Carling's the best in the world. I'm like, well, if you say so, mate, I know. I'm not going to argue with you.
Sometimes, if you're just like really, really thirsty and it's a red up
like
there.
you're in the desert, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're at death's door. Yeah, is that where you're going?
It's refreshing, like, a light lager, crappy lager. It's quite refreshing on a really fucking hot day after a day's graft.
You know what? Some pubs you go to, you ain't got a choice anyway.
Yeah.
It's rather that or fucking Carlsberg. I ain't drinking that.
I'm quite glad. I didn't start off on Carling. I'd never liked it. And everyone's going to be like, nah, he's just trying to be cool. I started on John Smith's.
You were the original hipster. No,
I started working with my dad like when I was like 15, 16. And he'd say, like, if you've done a week's work, you can come to the pub, That was his thing, like, he said. So you come to the pub with us on the Friday evening after work. So we went in after work and we'd have a pint. And he'd say, you can't have that lager stuff. It's bad for you, that stuff. He said, you'd have the same as what I'm having. I'll have a Worthy's or a John Smith's. So I thought, I'll have that. And then I got to like it. And then when we started going out underage, in my mind, I thought, if I go up and order a Carling, they're going to know like I'm 17 or 16. If I order a John Smith's, they're going to look at me and go,
17-year-olds are drinking?
Exactly. 17-year-olds drinking John Smith's.
They should, if you're under 40 and you order that, they should outdo you, because there should be like an age limit. Like,
You're too young for John Smith's.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing in this modern age where craft beer is like everywhere and there's such a variety. But at the time,
there was none.
I had Doom Bar was exciting. If Doom Bar happened to be on tap or in a bottle, but
my first like ale was It was Ruddle's best, and yeah, I was like, oh, no. I remember going to Wetherspoons, and I remember sitting at the table, me and the guys, and we'd look at the menu like we were actually at a restaurant. We were like, I'm going to try that one, I'm going to try this one, I'm going to try that one. And actually, my favourite drink when I was much younger was a double Malibu and orange juice, which is a child's drink, right? Like, how do you order that without getting IDs? Like, yeah. And Archer's and lemonade, lovely. Right? Well. So they say, as you get older, your taste buds change, right? And it's like, you know, when you're a kid, you want fish fingers, beans, and chips for dinner. And as an adult, and you don't like Sunday dinner as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, if I went over to Mum's and I had fish fingers, beans, and chips on a Sunday dinner, I'd be like, what's going on, Mum? Where's the roast?
Yeah, I'd like to go. I wouldn't mind fish fingers, chips, and beans.
No, not in comparison to a Sunday roast.
Nah,
surely
mate.
not.
I love Sunday roast over everything. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, you're mad on him, yeah.
Oh.
But it was a case in Birmingham.
Wait, there's a backstory there.
Just loves them. It was a case in Birmingham. The only place you could go for different beers would be the Welly. Yeah. The Wellington. We'd go there and we'd sit there all day and just try and complete the board.
Yeah. I've been going to the Wellington for many years. It was brilliant. They would do some wild cider as well. If you were in a rush.
We used to have stuff on the board. You'd look at the percent, like the alcohol, and it'd just have a question mark, and you'd ask them, and they're like, "We honestly don't know what strength it is."
Yeah. Well, the Wellington.
Strong.
Yeah, the Wellington's been a bit of a beacon for like ale. Like, it's known throughout the country.
Yeah, I can't think of anywhere else in Birmingham, especially that's even now still really like it. Really.
Well,
there's a few like it, like that. What's that pub you really loved? By the Keg and Grill.
Craven Arms.
Craven Arms
is
is
one of my
Craven,
favourites.
Craven Arms was like a.
Craven Arms is a cracking pub.
Yeah, it was like Switzerland because you could go there with anybody. Like it was best casks. They had cracking craft
BFG,
beer.
man. That's all. I'll go there. BFG. I'll just keep them coming, man.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, I didn't drink it. I was. They used to get some really like. One time they had, you know, Elusive Brewing. You guys know Andy from Elusive Brewing? Anyway, there's a lovely chap, Andy. He makes great beer, Elusive Brewing. There was Elusive Brewing takeover, and all the casks were so perfectly conditioned. Like, every single cask was absolutely mind-boggling. But interestingly about Craven Arms, they also served Carlin. So you could all meet, and there was something for everybody. And they had I remember one of my favorite beers ever was Brody's. It's an old London brewery, and they had Brody's Hoxton Special on IPA. And honestly, I remember drinking and going, "Oh my God, this is brilliant!" And this is well, like, this is early on, and they were probably making IPA like what you would expect an IPA to taste like today. So yeah, it was really, really good. I don't even know what were we talking about. I was banging about Malibu and orange juice, wasn't I?
Yeah, we went on a tangent. You were talking about how you started drinking. You were about to tell us about what age you started brewing and how you got into beer.
Yeah, okay. So I go to university. I go through like a cider and black phase and snake bites and stuff. Still not great. And the first like proper real beer that I was like, whoa, what's going on? I went to the Brass House on Broad Street. I don't go Broad Street often. I don't want your judgment, guys. All right. Right. So I go to the Brass House on Broad Street, and I have a Timothy Taylor's Landlord. I have a pint of Landlord. I don't know why I ordered it. I was like, yeah, I have a pint of Landlord. Anyway, I drank it. I was like, oh my God, no way. Is this cask beer? And then so I remember calling up my mate saying, you got to come to town and try this bloody cask beer, man. It's incredible. Even to this day, the range and quality from cask, you can get like 10 out of 10, and then sometimes you can never get cask beer and it's 2 out of 10. And then there's also a bit of magic in that, because it sometimes comes down to how it's being kept, the place you go into it, and then obviously once you pop a cask, there's a bit of a time limit to drink it. So so it was Timothy Taylor's, and then I started getting mad on cask, and then eventually, you know, if I'm drinking cask, I come across Oakham Citra. I'm like, what the hell is this? There's fruit in beer now. This is nuts. And then Oakham Citra, and then Oakham Green Devil, if you ever had Oakham Green Devil. If you see it, just buy it. It's Oakham Citra on steroids. It's a 6%er. It's a really good one. So then you start going to like beer festivals.
The one that's got a green sort of face?
Yes, that's
the one.
Yeah. So the green face, that's kind of friendly. That's Oakham Citra. And then they do another one, and the face is kind of angry and looking a bit more intimidating. And it has horns. That's the Green Devil, which is an appropriate name. But yeah, you start going to like Camera beer festivals, became a Camera member as well, and really started getting into ales. And then at university, I was walking up and down Tesco, and I bought some Punk IPA. I think it was on offer. And I remember my first sip of Punk IPA, I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Ugh. Ugh. So I remember looking at the label, like, what's wrong with this beer? And then looking at the sell-by date, and actually, it was probably the first time I ever had something like horrendously bitter. And so I had that. I was like, oh, let's rank that. Is that rank? And then after the first bottle, I was like, actually, that's quite nice. I'm getting used to this. And then by the end of it, I was like, I gotta go back and buy more. So then I kind of caught the BrewDog. Like, fell in love with BrewDog. Love BrewDog. I love the beers. 5 a.m. Say, Punk IPA, and they had one called Trashy Blonde. And I remember going into my it's not very PC by today's standards, is it? Actually, you couldn't come out with that. But yeah, they had it in cask. So I went to a local pub and I had a BrewDog, Trashy Blonde and cask. I was like, oh, I guess I'm here all night then. And yeah, so then really got into BrewDog, and then so drinking a lot of BrewDog. I was going around. I'm going to Nottingham quite often, and then they set up a BrewDog in Nottingham. This is a funny story actually. So they set up a BrewDog in Nottingham. So we went. I was going there. I was there for the launch, and I was so excited. Drunk the board. Anyway, I was like, there was BrewDogs all over the country, and the Birmingham BrewDog came really late to the party. And I was like, well, come on, how come there's not a BrewDog in Birmingham? And as soon as I opened it in Birmingham, I was so excited. I think if you go to the Birmingham BrewDog website, you'll see me at the bar. Like you'll see the dreadlocks. But I was the first person to get kicked out of Birmingham BrewDog, and the very first person. That's
what a claim to fame.
I hold the title, and I got a bit too excited, and I drunk until I fell asleep, and then I was removed. So I remember the next day going, have I just been barred from my new favourite place? I can't believe this. Absolutely good. So the next day I came back and I apologised, and then I was like, actually, you're well behaved. Just, you can't be sleeping at a table though. so it's fine. So So I'm in love with BrewDog. I'm in love with beer festivals. You know, I'm looking at the Wellington Beer Board and the White Horse Beer Board, because they used to have their beer boards online before. It was very normal to have. This is before Untapped. So I could be at work and be like, oh, what have they got on? Oh, that's interesting. I go around someone's house and they're like, hey Chris, you like ale? I'm like, yeah, I love ale. I'm like, well, I've got this homebrew kit, and I don't really like it. Do you want it? I'm like, oh, I'll give it a go. So I'll go over to this underneath the stairs, peel back this bucket, and it's this brown liquid. It's flat. It's got bits of yeast floating in it, and I'm like, I don't even know what yeast. I didn't even know where beer came from. I was like, oh, what is that's gross. And so I just start dunking my glass in the fermenter. Right? I don't know any better at this point, and so I'm drinking this homebrew beer, and it's absolutely awful, absolutely awful. But it's also very free. So I did my best. You know, I have a good go. And I was like, oh, you can make beer at home. So then, because of that, I then go to my local homebrew shop, which was a Brew Monkey in Cradley. And I go to the chap. I'm like, hey, I want to make BrewDog Punk IPA. And I have to explain what Punk IPA to him is. And he's like, yeah, you need to walk before you can run. I'm like, okay, fine. So he gives me this gel bag. Gives you my own plastic bucket, and it's just follow the instructions. So you go home, you put the gel in the bucket, you put some boiling water on the gel, then you top it up with water, and then you put a pack of yeast in, and then you try and drink it in 5 days, and then it tastes bad, and you wonder why. The first one I did was undrinkable. I was like, oh, this isn't right. And then from there, I started looking on the internet, and then caught the bug. And then the second beer was really good. Dry hopped it with Chinook. I was like, okay, we can do this. And I remember drinking it, going, I've paid for worse. This is a revelation. And then from there, just kind of caught the bug. And I think, like, from a more personal perspective, it's the first thing I've ever made. Like, I've never been great with tools. I've never put anything together. But it's the first thing I've actually, through hard work. It's about 8 hours. Through a bit of hard work, it's the first thing I ever produced. And I think there's something to be said about doing that. So yeah, I've managed to make beer, and now there's people getting drunk and enjoying beer that I've made. So I'm getting a buzz out of that. and I just catch the bug. And then I'm at work and I'm fantasizing about what beers I'm going to do. And then one day I'm like, I'd love to actually have a go at doing this for a living. And so.
Were you just searching online for different recipes and stuff then? Still
Yeah,
like trying different things.
and reading and. Different
What was the worst thing you made? Was it the first one, or did you make any worse?
No, there was one. There's one that haunts me to this day.
Physically sick or,
Yeah.
or worse?
Oh, yeah. So basically, we were making a Halloween beer. I was like, well, I'm gonna make a bloody green beer. So I make a. I know. So I'm like, fuck, I can make a beer green, and there's a health food called wheatgrass. It's very green. So I put some wheatgrass in the beer, give it a shake. I'm like, it's green, and it's still beer. It's fine, right? So put it in bowls. I go out and I'm with some people. I'm going to share out this Halloween beer. The first one to pours out crystal like a beer colour. It's yellow. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, it's all sunk to the bottom. I didn't realise it was all sunk to the bottom. So then I shake it. I'm like, I will drink it anyway. And now it's like more wheatgrass. And I remember the taste of it to this day. Like, I remember like, yeah, that was bad. That was bad. But yeah, the thing when you're brewing your own beer, what happens is when you make great beer, you give it out, and when your beer's like mediocre, that's the beer you're drinking for like a month. So you drink your punishments. Yeah, you really do drink your punishments, and like you learn off flavors. Like I'm really sensitive to diacetyl now, for just like a butterscotchy taste, which you can get if you dry hops a bit off, or if there's not the yeast aren't happy, you're not getting a very clean fermentation. So I'm very sensitive to that because I've made a butterscotch beer and I've gone through like 19 litres at home going, oh. So we've got these cans and we're chatting away. I mean, these aren't going to drink themselves, boys.
I'm sitting there licking my lips and everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Crack them open. That's cool.
Right, so what we're going to start on? We'll go pulling down the sun.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Right, do you want to hold the mic while I?
What are you drinking, lads?
So this is pulling down the sun. This is a relatively new beer. We made this beer for so the first time we were going to Cannes, which was very, very nerve-wracking. I wanted like a nice pale ale, and come up with this idea because during the lockdown, because we had such great weather at the start of the lockdown last year. This time last year it was lovely. So even though we were all locked down and we couldn't see each other, I think as a nation we weren't really minding it so much at the start because of the lovely weather. So a lot of people were drinking during the day, and they were, for lack of a better phrase, pulling down the sun. You're just drinking until the evening comes. So I wanted to make a session IPA, a session beer that's ideal for drinking in the sunshine. Okay, but I've been drinking a lot of it in winter, so it doesn't matter. I mean, the concept didn't really matter. So yeah, a nice hazy session IPA. So it's more bitter than a pale ale. So there's quite a few hops in there, and it's just a very, very, very nice, very drinkable beer.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites. If I'm gonna go out on a session, I would happily drink all 5 pints of that. Everyone thinks because I brew and I can handle my drink. I can't actually. I'm a notorious lightweight.
Yeah.
When I drink with my friends and the way they drink me under the table these days, I'm like, Chris, you used to keep up with us. I'm like, I just used to be more drunk than you, I think. I think I've always been a bit of a lightweight. But yeah, so this is pulling down the sun.
So you're working at the NHS.
Oh yeah.
And then you were kind of brewing on the side. What happens next? Where's the point where you decided I'm gonna have a go at this?
Yeah, it was. I was coming up to 30, and I was like, I'm thinking about it all the time, and it's like a mind virus. It's something I really want to give this a go. And I was thinking, if I don't do this now, I'm gonna never do it. And then, the worst case scenario is I try it, doesn't work out. I go back to being a home brewer, and then I hopefully can get a job in the NHS. So it was around that time really started looking seriously for units and coming up with logos and stuff. And it was me and an ex-business partner when we first started, and I was still working in the NHS while setting up we were setting up the brewery and stuff. And this is the story of how I quit. So it was a Monday morning, right? And I come in and I had all these emails, and I was just getting grief, right? And the phone kept ringing, and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this. So I've never really handed in a notice. So I didn't really know what to do. So I wrote down on a piece of paper, "Dear Yasmina," my boss at the time, "this is my notice." Signed, Chris Small. Right? Very dramatic. He's like, "Yasmina, can we?" I was like, "Okay, can we have a chat?" She's like, "No, I'm very busy." I'm like, "Well, all right, I'll just give it you now." And he's like, she sat on like a dock of tables. So like on the table, there's my notice. So I had 30 days. Now I was the only person doing my job at the time. So, and if you're familiar with the hiring people in the NHS, it takes about 30 days just to put out an advert. So they were like, "You can't leave in 30 days." I'm like, "I can," and I'm going to. I'm going to. So yeah, a big part of to get the money for Burning Soul originally, well, certainly my half, I used to have a flat in Edgbaston where I'd brew, a top floor flat, and I'd actually had a Velux window, and when I wanted to brew, I'd put my boiler on a few speakers, and it looked like I was making meth. Honestly, it looked well dodgy. But yeah, so I sold that, and then I sold pretty much everything I had in life. I went down to, I had a van, my clothes, a mobile phone, and that was it. And everything else was gone. Like, I sold all my furniture. It was a bit of a weird one because I put it all on Gumtree, and then it was like, I had people like walking around the house like offering me like £2 for like a photo frame and stuff. I was like, yeah, just take it. I have nowhere. So it was moving in with mother, and while trying to make Burning Soul work. And yeah, well, I certainly don't regret it. But yeah, it was clothes, mobile phone, and a vehicle. So
you had no concrete real plans in place before you handed in your notice?
Not really, no. Not really, no.
Only had some type of business education.
Business education would have told me that was dumb. Yeah, no. The course didn't actually cover like how to run a business, how to do a VAT return.
I did it at college as well. It doesn't tell you. It just tells you how to do spreadsheets and cash flow. It doesn't tell you actually how to run a fucking business.
Yeah, you didn't give me cash flows. I was doing like project management and writing stuff on methodologies and SQL. I did very well in my SQL, but I never used. But,
How long did it take then to get up and going?
I think it was about. So when we first got moved into the unit,
How did you find a unit? Did someone?
So basically, right, you go online, and you're like, you can't find anything. So at one point, me and my ex-business partner, we would driving around Birmingham, just looking at the industrial areas, and we saw a sign. We'd call up and be like, "Hey, can we do this?" And we did see a unit, and we were starting talks, and then we says it's a brewery, and they were like, "Oh no, not having a brewery in the unit." I'm like, "Oh." I didn't realise we'd. You see, from my point of view, if I was a landlord, I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have a brewery in the unit." Yeah, cheers, lads. We were literally just driving around looking at units, and we drove past this unit, and we saw the sign for 2 towers, and I was like, "Oh, is this where 2 towers is?" So we literally knocked on the door, and we were like, "Hey, we're going to be starting up a new brewery. How are you guys? We've never come here before." And very friendly people. But they literally says, as we walked in, "Yeah, we're moving out of this unit in about 4 months." And we're like, "You are? You're moving out of this unit, are you?" And so the person who actually owns this unit is Birmingham City Council. So we pay rent to Birmingham City Council. And so we called the Birmingham City Council. You're like, "Hey, don't worry about it, we'll take that unit." And they were like, "No, that's not how it works." I was like, "Oh no." So they had to put the unit out, and they had to do viewings for multiple other people. And then you had to apply and part of the application process, which is weird, it's like, this is the rent, and you would bid how much rent you'd pay. So I think the idea is you'd haggle, and whoever bidded the highest would win. And obviously we really wanted it, so we put £1 on top of the base rate. We'll pay you an extra £1 a month if you go with us. And anyway, yeah. So they took us on. So it was a lot of gutting. So all the painting had to be done. There's an old picture we keep on the wall over there of how it used to be, and like it already had drains, but all the drains needed to be ripped up and put down. So there was a good few months, and putting it all together. But we had some of the kit from years ago. It was barely suitable as a brewery. It was pretty much scrap metal. So we put it together pretty much on a shoestring, as probably as cheap as you could do
Did you have anybody help you, like? And how different was it from brewing what you were doing in your house or in your apartment?
The actual process. So financial help, no, it was just me and my business partner. There's no investors.
Financially, I meant more like knowledge. Like really, like how different is it from brewing in your bedroom to this? Like for me, it must be like fucking completely.
Well, so when you're brewing at home, there's something called all grain. So you get like the kits where you add the water that I was talking about. So all grain is where you have like 3 different vessels. You have your HLT for warm water, then you have your mash tun, and then you have your kettle or your copper. It's the same process but bigger. So you just sort of follow the same process. My ex-business partner, he previously worked at Sadler's for a couple of months as well, and that also helped. I think what it was, he would won a beer competition, and Sadler's like, hey, we need a brewer, and then ultimately he's like, it's not what I want to do. I want to make my own. So, but yeah, and he was previously he was a carpenter as well, so that was pretty handy. Yeah, and then I have another close mate of mine who he works for Rolls-Royce on engines, on airplane engines, right? So he's a really shit hot engineer, right? So when he was younger, he used to weld, but now he works in an office on CAD. So whenever he has a chance to weld, he's actually quite excited to weld, and we have him in all the time. One of my good mates, Anthony, so he was helping us with the melting of the metal, which you need, especially when you're using scrap, pretty much.
A nice skill to have as well, welding. I'd love to be able to. I love building shit. So if I could build my own barbecue, I'd love that.
I'm useless at anything like that. I can't build anything.
Mate, yeah. I built a barbecue once, right, out of a pile of bricks. I literally just piled up bricks.
No cement.
No cement. That's not even a joke. Piled up bricks, and then got a big enough like metal grill. And as I was piling up bricks, put the grill down, piled some more bricks on top of that, and then put another grill down. Yeah, barbecue done. Wasn't safe at all. You can do it.
Yeah, we'll put fire on.
What were those first?
You finished that point down the sun pretty quick, didn't you?
And I was saying how hungover I was when I turned up.
Yeah.
Quickly disappeared, man.
Oh yeah, it's past 12, so yeah.
Oh, I'm
guessing sessions meant to be like a relaxed like session all day kind of ale, like not like a necking ale.
Say it's half a can in about 20 minutes. That's not too bad.
What was the first brews like that you made here?
The very first beer. The very first beer was a beer called the Forerunner IPA. Basically, we had Mount Olympus was the planned first beer, which was at the time 5.2. So first time using your kit, you haven't got a clue about your efficiencies, a bit of trial and error. So we made a 6% Mount Olympus, and we're like, whoops. Excuse me. So we couldn't call it Mount Olympus. So the first one was the Forerunner. So that was. I've still got a bottle of it.
You're just gonna keep it forever, like as a memento. Remember where you come from. Like.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth drinking at this point. I don't think it's worth drinking at this point, surely. The Forerunner, and then the second beer we ever did was, which was an old IPA we used to do called the OCT, but it wasn't hoppy enough, so we called it the Gateway IPA because it was like if you weren't really into IPAs, if you drank this, it's like the middle ground as you're working up. So yeah, we're working out the hop efficiencies, working out the malt efficiencies.
But it all came out drinkable, like it.
Yeah. There's touch wood. There's been very few batches that have to they don't see the light of day. Very few. So that's good. Nice. All right, we're gonna go on to a collab. This is
the one I am very excited. I haven't tried this.
Oh, okay.
I love Rock and Roll Brewers.
So do I. They're lovely people, and they make lovely beer. They're a bit more they're a bit more traditional than we are. So we've come up with the brew that's like somewhere in the middle between kind of like what we do and what they do. So this is all English hops as well, which is I'm a big fan of English hops. I feel like I've been. Well, no, excuse me. I'm not a big fan of English hops. I take that back. I'm a big fan of English hop growers. Yeah. So the English hop growers, they're looking at the market. So originally, talking like in the 80s, if you grew a hop and you had fruity flavors, it was considered an off flavor. You didn't want fruity flavors in your hops. So our distant cousins went over to America and they tried to replicate beer from home in America. That's why America has Budweiser, and there's another Budweiser from Germany. But when they grew the hops in America, because the soil and the climate was different, the hops ended up a bit fruity. So American beer was the laughing stock of the world. because it was fruity and horrible. So then the craft beer revolution happens in America, and it takes over the world by storm. But English hop growers are still, dug their feet in the mud and are like, no, that's enough flavour. But eventually, all these breweries were all importing hops from America. I mean, this is the UK. This is the home of beer. This is where all the history comes from. They're imitating us, and we're getting their hops in. So the market has changed. So to bring a hop from like testing to market is about 8 years. So it's a slow process, but there's some really good hop growers around the UK who are really taking on that challenge of trying to grow hops in the UK that kind of produce those kind of fruitier, richer flavours. Because it's not a case as we can't just get those American hops and just plant them in the UK, because under our climates, under our soil, under our conditions, it's not going to produce the same.
Yeah, it's like growing grapes for wine. It's different.
Exactly. So, so we're breeding hops to become fruity. So there's a UK hop called Jester, right? It was one of the first kind of new age UK hops, and there's another hop called Harlequin, which is now my favourite hop, which is the granddaughter of Jester. So it's so that's why it's called Harlequin. And so when we to come up with the recipe, we went over to Rock and Roll, and we were sitting down and we were having a few beers, as you do, as you do. We were having a few beers, talking about beer, getting all excited. I was like, I'd love to like somewhere in the middle. Let's go for an all English beer, because an all English beer it's not something that you see very often. And their favourite, Lynn from Rock and Roll, her favourite hop was Brambling Cross, which is an old school English hop. And as soon as she said Brambling Cross, I'm like, yes, I'm already into it, because I remember at the Craven Arms years ago, there was a brewery called Summer Wines, rest in peace. They haven't died. They're just the brewery has stopped. yeah.
And they all died in a warehouse fire.
No. The brewery's no longer trading. But my favourite English beer was Summer Wines Brambling Cross IPA. I was like, is this English? This is really good. Anyway, so Brambling Cross came out in the 1930s, and then in the 80s it fell out of favour because of its American character. They were like, oh, tastes American. Which is like, well, looking at the market now, I was like, that's great. That's great. So it's known for like kind of a bramble and a kind of a blackcurrant sort of taste you can get. And obviously my favourite being Harlequin, which we use in the World King Fist, what we spoke about earlier. We use quite a lot of Harlequin. So yeah, this is the Rock and Soul. Excuse my paw, I'm holding the mic. So this is, look at this teamwork. Look at that.
How we roll.
Look at that. It feels a bit bromancy now, doesn't it, actually? So, yeah.
Yeah, I was drinking, they've done a beer for 1,000 Trades. I was in there last night, drinking that one quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Really good.
They've done it. I think they used to just do a beer for 1,000 Trades. But I think 1,000 Trades might have come over to Rock and Roll and brewed that beer with them. Yeah.
But it was really nice either way.
So straight away you can see it's actually crystal clear. And I've never really cared about clarity. But oh my God, on this beer I'm like, there was no reason for it to be hazy. And obviously Rock and Roll, they don't make, generally they a little bit haze, but they're not heavily hazy beers. So I was like, we're gonna make a clear beer, and we're gonna load it up with hops. And as I'm taking the samples out, it's staying hazy. I'm like, so they're coming round, and I'm like, we're trying it. It tastes lovely, but it's like, oh, it's really hazy.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so I'm whispering to Quinn, who also works here. I'm like, oh, matey, I'm really sad it's so hazy. It's quite embarrassing, because it shouldn't be hazy, and I haven't got a clue. But what was happening was, so we have the sample tap. You got all the yeast that's in the beer, and yeast was kind of collecting on the sample tap. So as I'm drawing it off the sample tap, I'm drawing like yeast. So as I'm measuring, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a bit hazy. But on the day they're canning it, I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. So yeah, and also upgraded our cooling system, and I kept it at like -2 degrees for a couple of days to really drop it out. But yeah, so it's a all English beer, somewhere between the two. I think I really like it. It still has that, for me, whenever I have like Burning Soul beer, there's like an aftertaste. Like you put the glass down on the table, you're still like experiencing the drink. It's not like a quick taste or a quick smell and it's over. It's really lingers, and you get that from properly, really layering those hops in. So yeah.
Yeah, it's cracking beer, that is.
All English, and it's also sort of floral. So yeah, they if you ever been to their tap room, lovely.
Every time I go, it's rather the wrong time, or they've closed. Just
Haven't
sign
they
saying
moved?
closed now.
Have they moved?
Yeah, they've moved.
Yeah, I went to the old one. Where man, so
The new one is good, and the old they're both really good. But they've taken some of the best bits of the old one and they've put it onto like a new proper like pristine building. But they always lean into like the flower power sort of kind of music stuff. All their labels always have flowers. So for the label for this one, I found some flowers, and originally it was all colourful. It was all this colour here. It was all very, very bright. And I sent it to Lynn. I was like, "What do you think?" And I joked. I was like, "It's definitely more rock than soul." And she's like, "Yeah, a little bit. You look like their can." So I was like, "Well," so I did my usual trick, and I stripped away all the colours. It looked like a dodgy colouring book. Yeah. So we decided to meet in the middle. So you can see one side of it is like a bit more
like
burning soul, and then it kind of blends into full rock and roll territory with the
That
full.
works for the whole collab vibe as well.
Yeah.
Half your can, half their can.
And I don't think those. I don't think they've ever collabed before, actually. I don't know. I'm not sure if they have, but I can't ever remember them doing it. So it was really nice, and ultimately it's because of during the lockdown, it was like, well, I feel more confident with the canning now. I wouldn't want to collab with somebody so quick, so I feel more confident canning. So would you guys like to? So what we've done, we've made a beer, and you can only buy it here. Well, here in our web store, or if you go to Rock and Roll Brew House, they've got half of them as well. So
Canning's something you've done just fairly recent, isn't it? Like you weren't
well,
doing
it
the whole
was
time.
always on the list. So this design, I've had like sketches for this on the PC and little bits of this on the PC for years, but because of the whole lockdown, suddenly, because prior to the COVID thing, we only sold to bars. You could only drink Burning Soul at a bar or drink it here. There was rarely in a small pack.
I'd have to get a craft and try and get it there.
Yeah.
So you've dropped to me before. I live down the road from Craft in Shirley.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'll get it from.
Yeah. That I'm surprised there's not more places around Shirley that.
You know what? It does made in. They have just opened another place in Shirley.
Yeah.
Brew house, closer to the town centre, and there's one. The PPI and Craft have just opened a place in Solihull town centre. So Solihull and Shirley, it's getting better, but it's fucking taking ages.
Yeah, I don't. It does my head in about that. It's the bloody traffic. Oh my god.
Don't.
Sometimes I deliver to Nottingham, but I've done a delivery to Nottingham quicker than I've done a delivery to around your house. Just because if you go at the wrong time, the traffic is so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Oh, just a straight road. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And even just all the side bits down. And when the congestion charge comes in again, everything around the outskirts of Birmingham is going to get super busy because no one can drive into the middle anymore.
Yeah.
Next week,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is
so
next
I think
week.
it's going to get even worse. I think it's going to do the opposite. I think it's going to make traffic worse.
Yeah, well, I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat. I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat, but I do feel like driving around Birmingham's being made worse on purpose.
Yeah.
To like, what we'll do is we'll cause more traffic, and then people won't like driving, so maybe more people won't drive, which it's counterintuitive because now we've got more traffic. I'm driving for longer. There's the actual air pollution is going to be worse.
Yeah.
Like, have you tried going through King's Heath recently?
No, it's not. Man.
Well, it was never great, but they've closed all the side roads now. I'm like, well, this is a disaster.
Well, they keep on about opening the train line up, and they've been on about it for years.
That's
now,
the thing.
Years and years. And
I'm
until they do
I'm
it, that
completely
road's
with
always
them.
going to be a nightmare.
I'm completely with them. Get the cars out of the city centre, pedestrianise as much as possible. I'm with them, but they need to make it like you need to upgrade public transport first. You know what I mean? Like, we're not London. Like, London's cool. You don't need a car in London. You can be
if we had a
anywhere in
metro
London. You know what I
system,
mean?
We'd be fucking
And underground, yeah, you're
If we
right.
had it all everywhere, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
But we ain't got
Right,
it.
this podcast changed.
Oh, no,
Yeah, man.
that's just the
It's
nature of things,
Birmingham-based
man. That's just
suburban podcast.
yeah, that's
This
just
is
the nature
Birmingham
of
news,
things,
man.
dude.
That's what people
Well,
wanna hear.
The mayoral elections were last week. You could have ran last week if you wanted to run for mayor.
yeah. Well, yeah, cool. Well, in Jewellery Quarter, there's less parking spaces. They've closed off parking spaces. They've put ballards and in shirt, and so they've got rid of parking spaces on purpose. And I think if you do want to get people off the road, you need to not like terrorize them, or you need to make the other options better.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be
You
punished.
need cycle lanes.
Yeah.
For the e-scooters as well. Just flood the city with e-scooters, man.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of feeling like there has been a bit of a flood of those recently. And
It's fine. They're all like under bus stops and all over the place. man.
I remember driving behind somebody, and she didn't look safe on there. And I don't think clearly wasn't drunk, just wasn't confident on it, and she's wobbling. I'm like, oh, they're not even wearing a helmet. Oh no. But yeah, there are some other ways. Anyway, so we were talking about beer, probably.
Yeah, we were talking about
more than lately.
Yeah, it's cool. We kind of got to moving into here and getting everything set up. And
Yeah, so you tried a few beers.
Your first year, you won. Was it New Brewery or something?
Prior to Untapped, there was a rate beer, it was called. Everyone used rate beer, and rate beer was really good because when you rated a beer, there was a minimum word count. So every review you got was a legitimate, like, in-depth review. So it was the Rate Beer Awards, the best new brewery in the West Midlands, and we won, and it was absolutely great. And then they come out, so I think we set up like a kind of September, October time, and those awards come out in January, and we won that. And then the next January coming over, we won Best New Brewery in Birmingham. So we won it twice in a row. So that year, I mean, obviously, it's a thank you. But that year, I imagine there was some other new breweries in the West Midlands who weren't very happy that we won it twice. I don't know how we were new twice, but we were. And we went on to, we won the Thirsty Games. You guys know Indie Man Festival in Manchester? Oh man, it's a wicked beer festival. It's in it's a Victorian bathhouse, and like the swimming pools are drained, and you walk in the swimming pool, and you're in the swimming pool, well, the empty swimming pool, excuse me. And there's loads of great beers. Some of the best beers all from around the country, actually from all around the world. And they have something called the Thirsty Games, where they choose their 3 favourite new breweries from across the UK. And you go there, and you're invited, and people try your beer, and they vote who what brewery they like the most of, and we won the Thirsty Games, and that was incredible because some of the people we were against were like their beers were ridiculously good, and we managed to pull that off. Actually, funny story. Fulham. Funny story. So we're at a breakfast, right? And there's another brewery that's in the Thirsty Games, and I'm not going to mention them, but because they didn't win, so I'm not going to mention them. Stay humble, guys. Stay humble. And we overhear another brewery say, if X brewery doesn't win the Thirsty Games, it's a travesty. It's an absolute fix if that brewery doesn't win the Thirsty Games. And we're like sitting right behind them, like, we're sorry. And then they turn, so we introduce ourselves, and she's like, well, you haven't got a chance. Like, yeah, she proper like, I'm sorry guys, it's not, you won't win. Anyway, when we won, it just made it a little bit sweet. It was like the icing on the cake. Yeah. But that other brewery is very good anyway. So it's all fun and games. It's all fun.
Was it at that point you thought this could actually work? Like I might not have to go back to working at the NHS. It was committed. I mean, to be fair, when I sold all my stuff and was living at mum's, I had very little outgoings. So that was the main reason. I had very little outgoings. I had very little commitments. So you could go years. Well, you could go a very long time on very little pay. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still on very little pay now. So, but if you want to make money, stupid idea, don't do this. But if you want to make beer, this is the best. Yeah. So that's what I want to do. So it's a lifestyle thing. So money's never like the priority, and that's probably where we fall short. Because when it comes to like our chargings and money, I'm like, well, I'm not, even though the degree says business information technology, it's like I'm not really money orientated at all. It's just like, just want to make good beer. So we'll never approach restaurant and go, ooh, that's a bit expensive. Like, no, that's not the approach. The approach is, oh, sorry. So what I should have said is what burning soul actually means. So burning soul is like burning passion. You know, if you speak to like a gardener, they're very passionate about gardening. Yeah. And they got the burning soul for gardening. So if you talk to me for long enough, I promise you, we'll talk about beer. Like I do it so in every conversation. You can talk about the weather, and I can somehow maneuver us back onto beer because I got the burning soul for beer. It's like it means passion. It's a burning passion. So it's the burning passion for making beer, not the burning passion for making money. So and that shows.
How do you get from like your normal sort of IPAs and all the different ones to the flavours that come in? Like we've got one sitting in front of us here, ice cream powder, and you do my absolute all-time favourite beer, the Raspberry Ripple. I can't understand in my head how you make a beer taste like a Raspberry Ripple ice cream. I don't get it.
So when it comes to beer, okay, so the wine world, they're very pretentious and they think that this is the most complex drink in the world. It's not, right? Beer is thousands of times more complex, right? So when flavors in beer, so first of all, you got to look at where you get your sugars from. So the different malts. Malts are grown. Barley malt, grown all around the world. So depending on the malt you use, where it's grown, it has a flavour. Also, depending on the maltster, so the person who dries the malt, that can add additional flavours to the beer. So if you really dry the malt too much, you'll get kind of like a roasty flavour. So that's how you get dark beer. It's all about temperature of drying the malt, and you can caramelise sugars. So there's a whole complexity in just getting the grain. So before the grain even comes to us, it's already gone through like loads and loads of hard work has been put in before we even get the grain. So part of making a recipe is you get the grain, you get all those different grains, and you kind of build that recipe and that flavour based on the grain. Some grain's going to leave more sugar in the beer. Some grain's going to make it a bit drier. Some grain, like you can see here, this Rock and Soul, it's got like a nice golden hue. That's because of the grain, and that golden hue. There's some flavour in there as well. So the grain, very complex. And then the other complexities we touched about earlier is the hops. So hops grown all around the world, and like the interesting thing about hops is just because you think Citra tastes like this, next year's batch of Citra won't taste like this year's batch of Citra. I mean, it's a plant, and it produces oils. It's like there's hundreds and hundreds of different hop oils produced, but depending on the conditions it's grown, that kind of that blend, that mix of hop oils is going to be different every single time. So so you're looking at your malts, the combination of your hops, and then on top of that, we've also got the combination of yeast. Yeast around us all the time, all around the world. And previously, have you guys ever heard of the Reinheitsgebot, the German purity law for beer? No. So, in Germany, many years ago, they introduced the Reinheitsgebot beer purity law, which says beer can only be these things, because these brewers, they were putting silly things like lactose in beer, right? So the Germans intervened and like, you can't be doing this rubbish, guys. No, beer is X. So it was originally malt, water, and hops. That's all you could do to make beer. Right, and that rule was introduced before we even knew what yeast was. So we've been making beer before we even knew yeast made beer. So way back when, what you'd do if you were a brewer, you'd have your brewing stick. This is true, right? Brewing stick, right? And you'd stir your brewing stick in your unfermented beer, which is now called a wort. But yeah, your unfermented beer, and obviously the yeast in the stick would take part in their beer fermentation. And if your brewing stick didn't work, you'd go to another brewer and go, hey, my brewing stick doesn't work. And then you dip it in their beer, and then obviously you'd contaminate your brewing stick with yeast, and then you put it in. But anyway, so yeast all around the world, yeast, little single-cell organism, and as it breaks down sugar and carbohydrate and produces alcohol, it also produces esters and flavors, and depending on what sort of yeast you get, it can get absolutely wild. So the combinations of like your malt, your hops, and then your yeast, and then you might want to add fruits, you might want to add other ingredients. It's a very, 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 very complex drink. Everyone thinks this is actually quite simple. No, it's actually quite complex. Going on to the ice cream, to make the ice cream beer, I mean, I can't give it all away. But
no, but in my head, you've got a big pot of beer and you just tip in a load of ice cream, mix it up. That's really not how it's done.
There's a few Haagen-Dazs. I got a great contract with Haagen-Dazs.
I suppose you've got to break down the flavours of what makes the taste of an ice cream, and
stuff like that.
That's it. Well, we don't put cream in the beer, but we're not too far off. So yeah, you're right. It's that breakdown of flavors. So we had a big part of the ice cream is there's a lot of wheat, there's a lot of oats. Oats make it like silky smooth on the tongue. Oats is porridge oats. That's how you get that haze as well. So it becomes a silky smooth drink. We also lactose. So lactose is the sugar from milk. But the interesting thing about lactose is it's unfermentable. So when you feed it to the yeast don't, that sugar, they're like, that's not for us. And they ferment all the other sugar. So what you do is you leave a sweetness and almost a bit of a milky taste within the beer. So you had lactose, and then obviously vanilla, and with the raspberry ripple is a balancing act of the lactose, the vanilla, and we use raspberry puree. So literally like a big load of pureed raspberries, stick it in. And interestingly, so ice cream pale is 5.6%. But raspberry ripple is 5.8%, because when you add the raspberry puree, there's already sugar in the raspberry puree. So what you're doing is you're adding sugar to all the sugary ferment. So the recipes are very similar, except for the balancing act between the two. So yeah, so the way we do the balancing, when we come up with the recipe, you take the beer out without any vanilla additions, and then you would add like droplets and you'd measure that, and then you'd taste it, and you're like, that's too much. This is the right amount, and then you'd scale that up, and then you'd add it to the fermenter. So yeah, it's not a straightforward drink, and it is a very complex drink.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even when it comes to like getting your grain, depending on who you get your grain off, it might be the same grain, but the maltster might be different. He might have done a slightly different process, a slightly different temperature. So it all tastes different. So but that's the magic of beer as well, and that's also for me another reason why I actually quite like cask beer, because cask beer doesn't travel well. So whenever I travel anywhere, you won't see me drinking Oakham. If I go somewhere, I want the local brewery's cask, because that is the flavour of that time and that place. Sorry, another ingredient I haven't mentioned is water. Bloody hell. It's actually the most important, well, one of the most important ingredients, because obviously it's a liquid. So yeah, it depends on your water. So when you're traveling, different waters make different beer. We have in brewing, there's a process called Burtonization, which is what you do to your water to make your water like Burton-on-Trent, because it's long known Burton-on-Trent had the best history of IPAs. So obviously London, powerhouse of the UK, yep. And then we're all drinking porters. Porter was the working man's drink, because if you're a working man back in those days, you were a porter. Literally, you lifted stuff and you moved stuff. So it became known as the working man's drink. And then the invention of Coke came, not Coca-Cola, not the drug, but you know, like that type of charcoal that can burn at a much lower temperature. So what we could do is we could dry grain. So you get it out of the field, and you know, I was talking about the maltster. The maltster would dry the grain. I can tell I'm talking quick now, but the maltster would dry the grain. Right, but if you dried the grain over Coke, it means it could dry at a much cooler temperature, so the grain didn't brown. So for the first time, we were able to get pale beer. But the problem is, Coke was very expensive, and to get pale beer, it just made pale beer very expensive. So it was seen as like an upper class thing. So the working man had the dark beer, but if you were of money, you know, you'd have a nice pale ale. So pale ale was the rich man's drink. It was the champagne of beer styles. Okay, so obviously, you know, the UK is pillaging the world. and the people over in India, they want some of that, you know, that champagne IPA, pale ale from home. But the problem is, by the time it gets from home all the way to India, it doesn't, it spoils. So one way of preserving beer is to increase the alcohol, because alcohol is a preservative. Another thing is to put more hops in, because hops are also a preservative. So that's how IPA are born. But the reason why I bring it up is because the best IPAs come from Burton. Right, they didn't know why, because we didn't have the science at the time, but it's because the water in Burton is really, really hard. There's a lot of calcium in the water. So, you know, the washing machines live longer with Calgon. right. In Birmingham, we don't need that, but they certainly need it in Burton. And it was that hard water was known best for IPAs. And London folk hated the fact that, you know, the best IPAs, you know, the champagne of the beer style came from Burton. So, yeah, we have the water. Now, the water we use here at Burn and Soul, we have excellent water from, we pinch it from Wales, a place called Elon Valley. If you've ever been, it's absolutely,
it's incredible,
beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and I never understood people who buy Volvic until I left Birmingham and tried someone else's tap water. I was like, oh, this is why bottled water's a thing. Like in Birmingham, don't buy bottled water, man. Our tap water's like
some of
shit.
the best in the world.
yeah.
If you go to London, I cannot drink what comes out of a tap in London. If I go down there, I take cordial with me, just if I'm on the piss, and then I have to get something out of the hotel tap. I have to put cordial in. It tastes that fucking awful to me. I just like the sewer water, man. I
just like the idea of you of you having like a bottle of cordial in your little
squidgy
pouch.
ones, the tiny little bottles that you can get of it, the concentrated one. I take that down with me. I have to. It's awful.
It looks like hand sanitizer, but you've got rid of that and you've just put some cordial in.
You know, when you wake up like in the middle of the night, you've been drinking loads. You're like, oh, I can't breathe. I'm so thirsty.
No.
Drink the
What are you drinking, bro?
And then you have the water in London. You're like, oh fuck it. I'd rather be in pain.
How hard is it to control?
How many do you have any listeners from London?
I doubt it.
Not many.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, what were you saying?
How hard is it to control the strength of a beer?
Oh, it's generally not that hard. So the more malt you use, if you want to make a stronger beer, you put more malt, and the more malt you use, the more sugar. So the more sugar to water ratio really determines that. And the way you measure it is something called original gravity. So if you put a liquid out, and if the liquid has a lot of sugar, and you float something in it, it'll be more buoyant because of the amount of sugar. So what we do is we measure the buoyancy of something called a hydrometer. in there. We measure the buoyancy, then we feed it to the yeast. The yeast eat all that sugar, and they turn all that sugar into CO2 and alcohol. And then you put the thing in, and then you measure the buoyancy again, and then you can take away those two values, and you know how much sugar has been turned into alcohol. So yeah, it's when you need to use the same amount of water, the same amount of grain, and also generally the same strain of yeast. Sometimes different generations of yeast might be more efficient than other generations, and it's not an exact science. It is a science, but it's not 100% every time.
Yeah.
Like if you go down to the minute numbers, it won't be the same every single time, because sometimes the yeast might perform a little better than others.
Yeah. When you're picking, I've got an idea for a beer and I want to do this beer.
Oh, yeah.
How do you want it to taste? Is that sort of dictated to the percentage dictated to you, or do you dictate the percentage? Because if it is related to malt, so you sort of like, well, I ain't going to be able to make this under 5%. Or
No. So it's like you build something in your mind, and then you work towards that idea. So Rock and Soul, I was actually quite happy with, because when we spoke about it and the original plan for the beer, the end result was very close to what I had envisioned and I had tried to articulate. So it's generally. So what you do, I think as a brewer, some breweries they only brew the same beer all the time. It's the exact same beer, the exact same process. And I think if you want to improve, you need to be using new processes and new ingredients, and kind of increasing your experience with these ingredients. So you you have an expectation of what to expect from a certain hop and a certain addition, or putting in at this time and moving on. So you build it mentally, and then you kind of work towards that, and then hopefully you hit what you projected. If you got it wrong, you learn something new, and then advanced trial and error. That's it. So.
Do you have a favourite beer that you make? Do you want to crack that first? Or
yeah, no. I can multitask. The favourite beer we make. Oh, that sounded great.
That was a good one.
yeah. Oh, are we doing ASMR now? I think my favourite beer that we make, I really like the World King Fist. The World King Fist has a special place in my heart, because it's a beer that I've been brewing for about 8 years, maybe 9 years. So every Christmas I'd make what was the World King Fist. And I've got the original recipe, and it's changed a lot. But the idea of the World King Fist was to make a big, kind of dank IPA. And when you hear the word dank, you're like, well, that word gets thrown about a lot. But it's code word for weed. So it's like you might have heard like hops that go in beer are the cousin of the cannabis plant, and there's some oils that exist on both plants. So sometimes you can have a beer and you're like, oh, it smells a bit iffy, this does. Yes. So the Working Fist has always been like an ode to dankness.
Actually, Corona, no bottles of Corona. When you open a bottle of Corona, it smells exactly
stinks, man. And also Grosh as well.
Yeah, Grosh, yeah.
It smells like I don't know if you guys know the number 11 route, but back in the day, the number 11 route used to have a certain aroma to it when you went upstairs. Oh yeah, come on. Sorry, I like this. Just stop talking. Pour the beer. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the World King Fist IPA. So obviously, been making it a long time. The original version that came out of Burning Soul was it was on like a test batch, so there was only like 70 litres of it, and it was horrendously bitter. But I am a fiend for bitterness. I love a good bitter beer. Beer can't be bitter enough. So the original World King Fist, one of the earlier recipes was 300 IBUs. Now IBU stands for International Bittering Units. It's just a way of measuring bitterness. Now the human tongue goes up to about 100. Okay, so it's 3 times more bitter than the human tongue can even perceive. Like if I gave you a 600 IBU beer and gave you a 300 IBU beer, you'd go, ugh. Like you can't tell the difference between the two, because it's higher than the human tongue can perceive. But that was I can't get enough bitterness. Yeah. So earlier on I was talking about how your taste buds change. As a kid, I wanted sweet stuff, but as an adult, I need bitterness.
I don't know if have you done the sour? I mean, that's normal, isn't it?
I drink a lot of sour beers. I don't know where that's come from, but my missus, I'm one of the only people I know that proper loves them. But I'm mad
really?
on sour. Yeah, missus can't stand it. Like I'm mad on sour beers.
So am I. Sour beer is is beautiful. It's a cross between, it really is the holy grail of alcoholic drinks, because sour beers can sometimes taste a bit like wine, they can sometimes taste a bit like cider, and obviously they are a beer. So I remember my first sour beer, I was like, what the hell is this? And it absolutely blew me away.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe, like, it's funny because you think sour beer, but it's so different from what beer is. It completely blows you away. If we're talking about sour beer, one of the best sour beers or sour breweries out there is called Cantillon in Belgium. And me and the missus a few years ago, we went to Cantillon, and you go into this place, and it's called the Cantillon Museum. It's still a brewery, but it's classed as a museum. And you go there, and they give you a sign, and they say, please don't kill any spiders. And you're like, what? Because the place is infested with spiders, because spiders eat flies, and flies are attracted to sour beer. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yeah. So you go there, and these beers are spontaneously fermented. So what you do is you leave the beer out, and the microbes and the stuff in the air from the atmosphere, they land on the beer, and the bacteria, they start eating the beer. So it is something special. So what I'm saying is, if they clean the place, the beer wouldn't be as good, right? That flavour is encrusted in 100 years, and I think they've been doing it for over 100 years. It goes down from the father to son for 100 years running, and I think sour beer really fell out of. It wasn't very popular in the 90s, and we lost a lot of great historical sour breweries. But Cantillon managed to make it through, and there has been a resurgence. And unfortunately, it means the price of a Cantillon has gone through the bloody roof. I remember buying bottles of it for £6 from Cotteridge, right? And now, like, if you see it for like 16 quid, you're lucky. So yeah. Anyway, sorry. We've gone off course again.
Well, that's it, man. A lot of people don't understand sour beers. Like, whenever I get one, people always try it, and the first drink is there. I'm like, how are you tasting the same beer as I'm tasting?
I think I've only had like a little swig because I don't drink, but I think they're truly awful, man. Truly awful.
My missus, she hasn't. I drink loads. She hasn't had one that she'd even consider having.
You know, we went Beer Central last year, and it was like, Liam, honestly, try this, and tell me that this is bad. I took a little. I was like, Carl, that's undrinkable, man.
I just focused on sour beers. Beer Central mainly.
Well, we won't do it as part of the podcast, because we'll just be on a drinking session all day and recording it. But I've got one of the earlier cans we did a sour Zephyr. So I made a sour beer, but there's different techniques to sour beer. So the technique I spoke about earlier, that's kind of what people will call the proper sour beer, where you let post-fermentation, you let all the bacteria and all the stuff produce there. But there's another type of sour beer called kettle sour. So this is how you'd make a sour quickly. So what you do is you put the malt in, you get the sugar from the malt, you put it in the kettle, and what you do is at that point you'd pitch lactobacillus, and lactobacillus makes lactic acid, which is what makes the beer sour. So you'd pitch a bacteria, the bacteria would do its thing for a few days, and you'd measure the pH to get to a soundness you like, and then you'd boil it like a normal beer. But what that boiling process does is it sterilizes everything. And then you have a quickly soured wort that's been soured over like 3 days. And Cantillon, like, from start to finish, it's about like 5 years. I think it might be even longer for a proper sour beer. So some sour beers you can do very quickly. We did one of these last year, sour Zephyr Saison. So it was like soured, and I used Saison yeast as well, which is a Belgian yeast. And yes, that can was our slowest selling can.
I bought some of them.
Yeah, well, I didn't care because it was great. Yeah. Well, I took about 70, and I put 70 aside. I was like, they're not for sale. there's no rush on them. So yeah, I can give you one of my. Nice. So yeah, every now and again I have a Zephyr at home, and if someone comes to the brewery and they mention the Zephyr, or they're like, I actually really like a sour beer, I'm like, I got you.
Mate, you definitely shouldn't have said that in the podcast.
Maybe. Well, actually, yeah, I haven't got 70 left, so yeah, they're gonna come and be like, SARS.
They're gonna come off like Zephyr.
Your stout's much different, because you do a cracking breakfast stout. That's one of my favourites.
We got I might. Yeah. So so it's all down to the malts, and some stouts use certain different. We use different yeasts for certain different stouts. But I'm really glad you like the breakfast stout. It's one of my favourites as well. It's we use coffee. Have you ever heard of Quarter Horse?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Get them on the podcast.
Yeah.
They're lovely. They're lovely dudes, and their coffee is so shit hot. It blows me away. But interestingly about that beer, right? So generally, when you make a coffee stout, you get the coffee beans and you put the coffee beans in the stout, right? But what we do is we ask them to make 100 double espressos, because obviously, like, these guys are experts at making coffee, right? They're the best at making coffee, so we have them make the best coffee, loads of the best coffee, and we actually add the best coffee in strong form into the tank directly, and it takes them about 5 hours. It's not well, or it takes whoever the unlucky intern is about 5 hours.
This goes back to what you said earlier about not costing ingredients, though. Like, another company would go, yeah, we could get cheaper coffee than that. We're just going to that.
Yeah, another company, but you see, you work with Quarterhouse because they care, because they have the burning soul for coffee. So they're like, what are you doing? Nah, sounds interesting. And they, even though from their point of view, like, this is a lot of work, why am I doing this? We could just have some coffee beans. But actually, they're just as excited as you are. And then we had, a couple of years ago, it's a recipe, it's on the back burner. We did a pilot batch of a white stout. So it's a stout that's actually pale. So you get those like kind of chocolatey, those coffee flavors out of a pale beer. And it was absolutely beautiful. Went down an absolute storm. It's on the list to be rebrewed. There's a long list. Anyway, I was talking to him about the white stout, and I'm really, really getting into it. And talking to the guys from Quarterhouse, he's like, oh yeah. And then he starts talking to me about coffee blends. He's like, we need to blend this coffee with this coffee. And he did me a roast just for me to do a 70-litre batch of beer. He made a specific, like, a blend of coffee, and he roasted it a certain way to capture a certain flavour. Because obviously with the white stout, you don't want to pull out too much colour, because obviously too much colour. So he's roasted it. I think he might have done it at a lower temperature, perhaps. He's roasted it in such a way that you can get like loads of rich, deep flavours, but without extracting too much colour. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting part of Burning Soul is when we talk to people and when we work with people, we generally kind of seek out people who are passionate about what they do in this in the fields, and you know, it's kind of contagious when you get somebody who's really interested. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like coffee, but not that much. I mean, I went and I had a espresso tasting, and I was driving home, and I felt like I was
flying.
No, it wasn't like I was flying. I was having a panic attack. I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm sweating. I'm like cold. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, you can just drink this. Like, it felt like I'd done some hard drugs, man. It wasn't nice. It was not nice. But yeah, I do like a good coffee. But I just like people who are really passionate about what they do, and working with them is always an honour. So there you go. Yeah.
Cool. This has been like mega interesting, like, even as someone who doesn't drink and can't really taste the beers, but this has been fascinating. I've loved it.
Well, no worries. I mean, I dread to think how long this has been going on for.
Honestly, you know the time does not matter, man. I've loved it. I've loved it.
Well, the people who listen to you might care.
I feel like we could sit and chat all day about it.
Well, listen. But
do you have anything like future plans or anything you want to mention before we?
Yeah, cool. So, well. Yeah, we do have future plans. I've been after more tanks for a long time, because obviously now we're doing the cans. We want to keep doing the cans, but pubs are back open. So
you get someone in to do the canning, don't you? You don't have.
Yeah, so we use another company, and they come in with like their $100,000 worth of canning equipment, and you hire them for a day, and they do the canning, which is interesting because obviously their job, a lot of people think, oh, you're hiring them to do the canning, but no, I'm hiring their expertise. These are experts at canning. Right, I will sleep better at night knowing that the cans have been done by an expert and not by me. You know, so part of that they have nice kit, and they come and they measure your beer, they measure your, you know, how much carbonation you got in, and they measure your dissolved oxygen, and they kind of, you have the official figures, and it gives you a good indication on shelf life and stuff like this. And they do a great job, and they measure it out throughout the whole process. And you know, honestly, canning beer was very like anxiety inducing, I tell you. You're like, oh, is this thing? Because you hear about the horror stories and stuff that goes wrong. So hiring them, getting them in to do it is absolutely great. But yes, we want to keep canning. I want to do more cask beer. I love cask beer. I go out and drink cask beer. I speak quite highly of cask beer. Some people who drink like craft beer and keg beer, they look down on cask beer, but it's not the case. I mean, I will say with the cask market, it is more dictated on price, but it's moving away from that. But the attitude used to be, the customer, I'm not paying more than X for a pint. So then the landlord goes, I ain't paying more than X for a cask. And then the brewer goes, I ain't paying more than X for ingredients. So and that's a problem. And
Just a race to the bottom.
Yeah, and if you do that for years and years, the quality of the beer will suffer. But I think there has been a bit of a turning point with cask beer, because especially with us as well. The Birmingham camera folk were really welcoming of us at the start, even though some of our beer wasn't appropriate for the official camera rules. I think those rules have changed, but the Birmingham camera was very progressive, and I'm like, it doesn't matter, it tastes good, who cares what kind of vessel it's been put into. But yes, so we want to move into cask, and to do all this, I need a lot more tanks and big equipment. I mean, at this point, if the brewery was 3 times the size, I'd be much happier. Yeah. So I've been trying to source new tanks, keep cans coming, more cask, and produce more beer, and maybe expand the team a little bit and get more people in, and more tap room. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm happy we're on the inside now, but the table service is not. Burning Soul isn't about table service, because when you come to Burning Soul, you can stand up and everyone in the room's friendly, so you can talk to anybody. Whereas when you're on a table, you're locked into just the people you've come with. Whereas before, we've had customers come here like by themselves.
Yeah,
and be like, well, it's okay, I'm going to know somebody, or I've shared a drink with somebody before, or and everyone's quite friendly. So yeah, all right.
Cool.
Wicked. All right.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
I've got questions.
Oh, you got your questions.
Questions.
Back.
Oh, sorry.
I haven't done this for ages. It's been
Cool,
years
man.
since I've done
This is good because I get to chill and I need to.
Stand up. Right, this is just really, really just people to get to know you questions.
Oh, okay.
They're really super simple answers. Don't worry too much about.
Shall we crack this can?
Yeah.
You waited until Liam walked away and you're like, yeah, we'll crack it. He's trying to leave, but no, we'll crack it.
What's this one then?
Oh, I need. This is another client, but this wasn't brewed at Burning Soul. This was brewed at a wonderful brewery called New Invention from Warsaw.
Yeah.
So this beer is called Fair Dinkum, right? And if you're familiar with Australian slang, Fair Dinkum means real bloody good. Yeah. So this is just Australian hops, and we've made like it's an 8% double IPA. Wow. So it's we made like a big sweet beer. And,
what makes it a double? I've never understood what makes it
this is
double
a
IPA?
cause of contention for me, but a double IPA means just like it's the strength's higher. Previously, I think doubles were called Imperial IPAs, and you get triple IPAs, and I think another brewery's recently done a quad IPA, but it's like a 8.
You would not guess that.
No, you would not. No, you're not. And it has loads of some of the top Australian hops. You know when you get like wine.
That's really good.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it. Well, to be fair, New Invention, all the beer Cardiff New Invention makes is always shit up. So and I've known him for years. So when we was talking about let's do a beer together, it was like, oh yeah, it sounds like a great day. So we went over there and we done about 12 hours of brewing. You can't see me doing air quotes. We also had a few beers and spoke about beer and really got, he's got the Burning Soul as well. He's passionate about it. So working with him was great. So yeah, this is Fair Dinkum double IPA. Go on. Sorry, questions.
Right, they're really, really, really easy. What's your favourite movie?
Bloody hell. They're not that easy, are they? I think my favourite movie is Battle Royale. It's a Japanese.
The original.
Yeah, the original. Yeah. And don't watch Battle Royale 2.
No, watch this shit. It doesn't make any sense.
So Battle Royale.
Favourite band?
Oh man, what are you doing to me? These questions aren't easy at all. Led Zeppelin. We listen to a lot of Zeppelin around here, but
Zeppelin's a good shout. There.
But I have been listening. Just on the way in, I was listening to Don Broco, their 2018 album Technology. I've been really enjoying it recently, but I wouldn't say favourite band definitively. I can tell you a favourite song. Is that another question?
You can have favourite song if you want.
So there's a band called Malevolence, and they do a song called Turn to Stone. I don't like any of their other music, but that song is it's almost like the theme tune to Burning Soul. Yeah. It's proper deep, proper metally. It's really heavy. It's beautiful.
What's your favourite spirit? And I mean down to the bottle. Which is your favourite one to buy?
Okay. Favourite spirit. You see, I don't drink spirits.
You're not spirit man.
No, it's too spooky. Not into it. No. My favourite spirit, if I had to choose, it's gonna be. It'll be whiskey. It'd be a whiskey down to the bottle. Probably a Japanese whiskey. Although, yeah, don't talk to me about spirits. I'm not. No.
What's your favourite big fast food chain?
You said these questions were easy.
These
Like
are
I
easy
have
questions,
never
man.
thought.
I wrote them and
I've never
whittled them
thought
up straight away.
and no one's ever cared enough to ask me these questions. What big fast food chain?
So I've gone KFC.
Ah,
Five
no.
guys.
Well, mine's is Caspian big.
Yeah.
I like a Caspian
Yeah,
pizza.
I like Caspian.
Yeah.
It's not proper pizza, but it's fucking good.
Oh, what
whatever
do
it
you mean?
is,
It's
man.
not proper pizza. Go on. How dare you? What do you
It's
mean?
like pizza cake for me.
Oh, come on, dude.
But it's good. I order
It's
it.
not pizza cake.
Anyone that
Like
puts
it's a
Dynamite
proper,
on
it's a
pizza's
proper
good for me.
deep. Yeah, I don't know what Junior's put. You know what? Pizza needs to be more unhealthy.
Yeah,
Let's
we need
add dynamite
on this.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes,
Yeah, well,
that's my favourite.
Yeah, so
I'll
my
order
favorite
from
chain
there
would
anyway.
be a Caspian.
What's your favourite takeaway? Indian, Chinese, Caspian?
I think I go to Chinese. They do something called a fuyong, which is like a scrambled egg dish, and they put loads of stuff in there. So and plus it's just pure protein, goes straight to the biceps.
Other than Birmingham, what city would you go for a good drink, especially for beer then?
A good drink, especially with beer. There's some really
You pick
great
anywhere in the world.
in the world. Oh, no,
Anywhere you want.
No, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it local. No, Bristol's
good,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's got a wicked beer scene. I love Bristol. Left Hand Giant and like the cobbled streets and like one of my favorite things about Bristol is like literally a lot of the best pubs are like literally opposite each other and next door to each other.
Yeah.
So you don't have to walk very far. It's literally you just cross the street a few times. So yeah.
You're there.
Yeah. Bristol's great, and it's got some really picturesque and like historical feeling pubs and bars.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, was that it?
That's it.
Oh, cool.
Simple
That,
questions.
they weren't that simple, mate.
Wow. The simple if you like me, just think about what your favourite thing is all the time. I'm always putting top fives in my head of everything. I'm working on top 5 TV shows at the moment, and it's so fucking difficult because I've included all genres, and I'm not joking. I'm lying awake at night thinking about this.
Oh wow.
It's absurd.
What's just tell me number 1 and 2.
At the moment, purely because I've watched it all the way through twice, Battlestar Galactica
Oh yeah.
is right up there because I watched it all and then I told the missus how good it was. And she said, all right, I'll start watching it. So I watched them all from the beginning.
Did you
again.
pick up stuff like you didn't realise that on the first time, on the second
Yeah,
time?
well, especially when you know what happens.
Yeah,
It's for the second time I watched it's even better.
I think in the first episode there's like a reference to like an obscure like politics thing by one of the guys.
Yeah.
And the first time you watch it, you'll never know that he's
never
referencing
pick it up.
his like political. Sorry, yeah.
But it's one of them programs that's just fucking brilliant. I absolutely love it. And probably Father Ted. Sounds simple like that, man. You go deep and then you go like Father Ted or Phoenix Nights.
Father Ted is
But I'm a
bloody.
massive fan of Spaced as well. I loved Spaced. I was the exact right age for Spaced as well when it came out. It was just like the perfect storm of TV.
I don't know that one, but I'll tell you what show I have been watching on YouTube clips. Peep Show. Do you remember Peep Show?
Yeah, I love Pizza.
Dude, the cringe levels on that are like
Yeah.
so high.
Do I suck mummy's finger?
Yeah, some of it's hilarious, and just having it from the first person point of view, you really feel like you are part of this train crash. Yeah, absolutely. Well, anyway, cheers, guys. It's been nice having you.
It's a good podcast.
Yeah, I loved it.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for the beers.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries.